Well, we're 10 weeks into the Biden administration. And nope, that's not an April Fool's joke. Last week we covered Biden's first press conference and tried to get clarity on gun control.
It said to stay tuned for actions that you might take on gun control. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you had promised on day one to Capitol Hill, or executive actions like going after ghost guns or giving money to cities and states to battle gun control.
All the above. It's a matter of timing.
Let's explore this. Overturning the Manufacturer's Liability Bill, or the PLCAA, Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, protects gun manufacturers from being sued if their products have been used irresponsibly and or unlawfully, which is why Joe Biden says, our enemy is the gun manufacturers, not the NRA, the gun manufacturers. However, that doesn't mean that the manufacturers are not held liable due to negligence. Gun manufacturers still can be held liable for defective products, breach of warranty, and criminal misconduct, as long as it is directly the manufacturer's fault. For example, if a gun misfires and you get hurt, you could possibly sue. If the gun store owner is aware that you are about to commit a crime and sells you a gun anyway, they can be sued. But if you decide to shoot someone because you're having, let's say, a bad day, you cannot sue. Next up, going after ghost guns. Well, for starters, what the heck is a ghost gun? Glad you asked. A ghost gun is a homemade DIY gun, many times having no serial number and are untraceable firearms. Depending on where you live, these firearms do not need to be registered, you do not need a background check to possess them, and they are legal to carry as long as you don't have prior convictions that does not allow you to have access to firearms, and you're not distributing them. So what is the issue with having more gun control? Well, Congress took an oath to defend the rights of all Americans. The Second Amendment is an American's right to protect themselves and should not be infringed. So the issue is not gun control and having more gun safety. The issue is how far are they going to go with gun control, and will our rights to protect ourselves be infringed in the process? But instead of talking about gun control, Biden segued into why he needs to borrow $2 trillion for the Green New Deal. I meant infrastructure. Biden said his infrastructure plan will create more jobs and assist in stabilizing our economy. But only $135 billion of the $2.25 trillion in counting would actually go towards improving highways, roads, and bridges. And if Joe is so concerned with jobs, why did he put thousands out of work by canceling the XL pipeline? Joe Biden says that canceling the XL pipeline was one sure way to help combat climate change. But research shows that's not completely true. Not only is the pipeline reported to be fully powered by renewable energy, but canceling the pipeline doesn't stop the oil from coming down from Canada. It just stops us from receiving it through the XL pipeline. Until the other pipelines are expanded to handle the extra imported oil, the oil will go on trucks and rails and ships. That is producing a bigger contamination to our climate. Because it requires more trips, uses more gas, and takes up more time. Under Trump in 2019, the U.S. didn't import foreign oil from the Middle East, and our gas and oil prices stayed low, keeping money in our pockets. Well, say bye to that. Also, this infrastructure expands welfare and spikes taxes for corporations. And we all know who ultimately pays for that. You got it, the rest of Americans. Taxes going up means prices on goods and services will go up as well, while work hours and salaries will decrease. Joe, just call this what it is, a money grab, and a sure way to funnel money back into the greedy hands of big government and keep us dependent. State and local governments need to handle the needs of their own infrastructure and stop relying so much on federal, and big gov can focus on China. China's goal to be the biggest and the baddest is right on schedule, and from the looks of things, their motto is, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. As China and Iran team up to strike a deal, China is willing to be Iran's sugar daddy for the exchange of cheap oil. One thing about China is they are smart. Iran has 10% of the world's oil reserves and number one in gas reserves, a completely untapped market. Now, I'm sure pulling out of the JCPOA, which limited Iran's nuclear activities for less U.S. sanctions, and then dropping bombs and killing General Soleimani while some of the Muslim countries are fond of China's policies, probably made this deal that much easier. But now with Trump not in office to enforce his massive pressure campaign, where does that leave America? If China and Iran team up to form a new coalition in West Asia, that puts America directly in the line of fire. Biden has every intention of rejoining the Iran deal, despite them breaking the agreement before. But Iran refuses to do business with the U.S. until we renegotiate our sanctions. Should the U.S. rejoin the deal, or should we prepare for war? In my opinion, Biden needs to focus on America first, because we already have a war going on down at our borders, and we are about to have another one in-house if Americans keep getting pushed to the side to make room for illegal immigrants. It's been reported that taxpayers can pay up to $400 per individual per night for hotel housing, and San Diego is housing immigrants in their convention centers, which normally shelters homeless Americans. 500 girls arrived just on Sunday, and more children soon to follow. And if you're thinking somebody is going to catch COVID, well, you're right.
Around 500 teenage girls seeking asylum have already arrived here at the convention center, and the mayor plans to have full capacity, around 1,450 teens here by the end of the week. But today, new health concerns. Sources confirmed to News 8 that several of the teens have tested positive for COVID-19.
Last week, Biden said Kamala Harris is the right person to get immigration on track. So let's check in with her. Okay. Looks like she has her hands full. So let's see what she previously said on immigration.
Happening with the detention of these children, the circumstances by which they arrived, is a human rights abuse being committed by the United States government. And so we are here to stand up and say that we are not going to allow this to happen, not on our watch. I will tell you, when elected, the first thing I'm going to do, one of the first things, is to shut down these private detention facilities. Just shut them down.
Man, this is chaotic. Kamala is saying close down the facilities, and Joe Biden is saying to surge the border.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard.
Interesting. Let's listen to what AOC says about people who use surge when referencing the border.
They want to say, what about the surge? Well, first of all, just gut check, stop. Anyone who's using the term surge around you consciously is trying to invoke a militaristic frame. And that's a problem because this is not a surge. These are children, and they are not insurgents, and we are not being invaded, which, by the way, is a white supremacist idea.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. Surge to the border. Immediately surge to the border.
Uh-huh. Okay, I see. Thanks for the heads up, AOC. Speaking of heads up, watch out! Here comes Noah Green. Mr. Green slammed his vehicle right into Fort Pelosi's barricade, killing Officer Billy Evans and wounding another. Mr. Green then exited out his vehicle, brandishing a knife, and was shot by law enforcement. First responders were on the scene and rendered some form of CPR as Mr. Green was rushed to the hospital, and it has been reported that he died of his injuries. There is no clear motive at this time as to why Noah did this, but a quote that Chuck Schumer is fond of is never let a serious crisis go to waste. So I'm sure the walls around our Capitol won't be coming down anytime soon.